All right. Hello and welcome to the Widener SBDC web broadcast of First Step Live. I'm Peter Hornberger. I'll be your host for today. And one of the things that we're hoping to bring to you is just some insight into what it's like to start a small business and some things to keep in mind as you're going through that process. So I'm joined today by a couple of our graduate assistants and colleagues that help us both deliver our training sessions both live on the web, and we do live workshops in class, but we also do consulting, and we'll talk about some of those things as we go. But what we wanted to do was we compiled a list of some things that we normally hear from our clients, and we've put together a brief show for you to cover the 5 most common things we typically hear from our clients and the people looking to learn. So why don't we maybe get kicked off with a little bit? I think the first question is, whoa, what is the SBDC and what do we do? So, Patriot, do you want to help us kind of address just a little bit about what this whole thing is at the SBDC?
So, Small Business Development Center is funded by the SBA and the state and Widener University. So what we do is mainly to offer business consultancy for free, and so we help people already in business and people who have started business, and we help them mainly, especially with business plans, and just essentially to have everything running before they start their business.
Um, we apologize for the technical difficulty, but we're going to plow through and keep going forward. So again, Patriot was sharing with us a little bit of information about the SBDC, and I'll just kind of recap real briefly that we're here as a state and federally funded program to provide free and confidential consulting and educational programming to people throughout the Delaware County region, Pennsylvania, and beyond. We're serviced here in Pennsylvania by 18 centers. We have a center here at Widener, as well as them spreading all across the state. And then there's a national network of SBDCs, about 1,100 of them, spreading across the entire United States and into some U.S. territories as well. So, Patriot, anything else you want to talk about real briefly, just to share with people a little bit of the type of assistance, whether it's research or training? What kinds of things can we do at the SBDC to help?
So apart from the business consultancy, we also offer educational training, like what we're doing now. We have fast start and second step training that we train essentially people who are starting business or people who are looking to grow into their businesses. We also offer international business adverts for people who want to get into export and import. We also do government marketing just to help you get some contracts with the government, and we also do consultancy services and online business. For example, if you want to start your website, we offer all these services for free and
Okay.
confidential.
Good. All right, so we will transfer over to the next question that we typically get, and we'll straight out. So Josh, you want to come on in? Josh is going to be our next guest here on the program. So thanks, Patriot. We'll have you back in a moment as well. But Josh, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. And the next question we typically hear is about business legal entities, and people know that that's a thing that they have to do, but they're not really sure what that
What
might
they
entail.
are.
So you want to give me just a quick background about what is that question about, and what's some information you might be able to share with people?
So when you're starting a business, obviously your business has to become itself, or so there's a couple different types. So there's two main types. You could be incorporated or not incorporated. What falls under not incorporated would be a sole proprietorship and a partnership. A sole proprietorship, it's basically the business is attached to you. So whatever the business does comes back to you. So if you're trying to go for a loan, it's a personal loan. It's not a business loan. It's taxed at the same rate that you're taxed. It falls under your Schedule C on your tax return. And then when you go into something like a partnership, it could be you, or it could be you and it'll be you and your buddy or
Sure.
more. And then they're also fall under being taxed at kind of the same rate. And then at the same time, you could also have a different type of liability. So instead of it just being, all of it falling back on you, it
Right.
could fall back on you and your partner, depending on how you write the contract.
Josh, any other thoughts about the incorporated status? Are there kind of any tips you can give people to say, you know what, this decision is really critically important, and it's not just money, it's not just liability, but it's really the whole connection of the business has to serve a purpose, but it also needs to be sustainable and go on for beyond just maybe today.
Yeah, I would say when you're looking into your business, and don't look at it as like it's a when you want. I know that like a lot of people want to start their business now and they want to start making money, so a lot of people go with a sole proprietorship or a partnership. But I would say you have to look at the business in the long run. Like where do you want to be, and then know if you go sole proprietorship, what are the things I have to do to switch it over if I want to become a corporation? Just because if you do have legal problems or any type of other problems, you want to know what is the best choice for me, not just now, but say 5 years down the line. You want the decision to be valuable. It's nice to say you want instant gratification and to make a business and have whatever you want, but at the same time, 5 years down the line, if you get into a situation where you owe somebody $20,000 or something happens and you're gonna owe somebody money, what are you going to do? Because they're going to come after your personal self if you're a sole proprietorship compared to if you're a corporation. Like, there's decisions that you really have to look into.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing, particularly when you're a small business, to separate yourself from the business, and it's a really complicated thing to think about. These two things are separate because a lot of your time is spent working in the business, and this concept really, I think, is important to separate those two functions, that you as an individual are important and valuable, and the business is important and valuable, but they do need to hopefully exist separate from each other. Just want to remind you, as we're still dealing with some technical things, hopefully things are functioning right now, which looks like they are, but if you have some questions for us or comments, you can email us at widenersbdc@gmail.com. We're monitoring that as we speak, and we'll hopefully be able to address some of those throughout the day. There's also a chat function if you're watching us directly in the YouTube application. What I think we oftentimes we see, the assumption is, I already have customers. I know that they're going to want it. And the business plan, I think, has maybe a weakness in that we talk about in our consulting practice that we want to help people design, test, learn, and evolve. And the business plan is a part of that. That's the design. We need to have a hypothesis. We think if we start a business, these are the things that are going to happen.
Yes.
But without testing it, we don't know. And oftentimes, if we get focused solely on the plan, we make assumptions that, as soon as I make this, people are going to buy it, guaranteed. And that's
and the
dangerous.
Business plan helps with that because, you can plan and plan and plan and plan, but, you can be prepared. But once you're out there selling it or once you're out there providing that service, there's so many things that you can't predict. So the business plan is essentially there to help you prepare and think and maybe figure things out. But being an entrepreneur and being in a business requires flexibility. And the business plan is a good way to start, but the business plan is just going to push you out there. And once you are out there, you got to be able to adjust. And that's kind of key in business as well.
Right.
Being able to adjust.
Right. And that's back to that, that process of design, test, learn, evolve, right? Which is, you never really arrive at success. You kind of plan for it, you test for it, but at the same time, success moves. So you have to continue to learn from what you're getting that feedback from the customers and from the marketplace.
Yes.
But ultimately, your job as a business to sustain is to continue to evolve and grow.
Absolutely, I agree.
So what about tools? What tools do we have at the SBDC to help people work on this process?
Yeah, of course. So like Patriot started to get into earlier, we have workshops and consulting. And really that's kind of what we do here as GAs, and even what you guys do. We are here to help you formulate that business plan and kind of get your ideas in a structure. Because a lot of time, maybe if you don't have business background or you don't know someone who already got into the business industry, we're here to be that, to be that guider, to guide you in the right direction with your ideas and your business plan.
Yeah, and the tools like the business model canvas are things that I think are pretty valuable, and again, helping people to map out what their business idea is, and really look from a customer-centered approach. I think business plans are great at preparing for business operations, but they tend to look inwardly at the entrepreneur and the business itself. And while we look at things like target market, it's not as prominent as it is when we do things like the business model canvas, which is a tool that we use here in this space, by the way, is our success lab. This is the space that we actually work with clients. We don't even say that we meet with clients anymore, that we have a space that is 360 degrees, is writable, movable, engaging. So all the walls are writable. We have space that you can engage with everything in this space. And the point is that it's back to that design, test, learn, and evolve. So as you're working on a business plan, we want to take it to a space where it becomes moldable and you're able to take it into a space where we can say, look, if I'm going to try something, I want to try at a level where if I fail, it's not going to crush every future iteration of this thing. So I think that's really helpful.
And I also think too, to speak on this room, I think like a lot of times as a GA so far, I've been noticing that it just takes its space. Like often people feel like they have work and children's and lives that don't have the space or the time and the schedule to just sit down and formulate and pursue their ideas. And I think we at SBDC in this room especially provide that space where you can, make time to just write on the walls, literally, your ideas. And I think that's really helpful for a lot of people.
I agree. And we found that that's also part of the SBDC kind of equation it's about people, but it's also about the place and the process. So while we use tools like the business plan and the business model canvas, again, if you don't mix that with people that can understand that process and also a place where you feel comfortable and hopefully excited to work with the ideas, it's less impactful. And that's our hope, is we want to be productive.
Yeah, and then also the last piece of it is that it's confidentiality.
Right.
It's a safe environment. So not only do we have places where you can go, people you can talk to, everything here is safe. Everything is completely confidential. So, and all the great work that you do in this lab with the business plans, formulating everything, we keep it honest and safe.
Yeah, and I also want to recommend, I know we've been dealing with some technical issues. I think we've gotten through those. It seems like we're streaming at a high level again, so it looks like we've gotten over some of that. So we apologize for any of the streaming concerns. But I also want to mention that if you're on YouTube, if you scroll into the description, there's a link to a survey. And we'd appreciate you giving us feedback. And again, that doesn't mean all happy smiles. We recognize that this is a pilot for us to try to bring you content in this hopefully interactive. The hope is it's high definition and clean and clear and crisp. We hope that it is that, but if it's not, we want feedback, because this is just like we're talking about with our consulting. We designed, this is the test. And next level for us is to debrief and learn, and then we'll evolve this to whatever it becomes. But so we appreciate you going through this with us. And again, also, if you have any questions, you can email those to us at widenersbdc@gmail.com. And if you're on the Twitter if you're on YouTube application, there is a chat function as well, so you can chat and ask a question there. So how about we're going to go over to our next question. So I guess, Josh, you're back on. We're going to talk about legal questions because people like to this is a big concern. People want to do business the right way. And we often hear that question, like, what do I need to do business the right way? And it's a lot. Just getting here, it looks like we do have one question that, so here we go. We've got a question here about this. Basically, what is my responsibility when I start a business? What is my responsibility? So you want to maybe start with, like, where do you start to take responsibility for your business, I guess, is a way we can translate that question.
Yeah, I would say, when you're starting a business, other than having to decide what you want to sell or what your product is or your business and what kind of entity you're going to be, the first thing you want to look at is, what are the legal requirements for, my local municipality? Like, what do I have to do to even start business? If you're selling something, do I need, some type of, certification in it? Do I need a sales,
like a business license, a business privilege license, those kinds of things. And we typically think about things maybe from the top, like, oh, I'll start with the federal government, and work my way down. These big entities like Department of Agriculture, if they say I'm good, we're good to go. But we sometimes miss that it probably should go the other way. Start at the most local and work your way up, including business privilege, down to zoning even. Can I do this type of business from the location that I'm planning on doing it? It's phone calls. It's maybe make a visit to your city hall or whatever your local kind of point of government is, and ask some questions. And again, this is stuff you should be doing in that design phase, not in the test phase where you go out and you've already.
You got to look at, because if you're not paying taxes, you're gonna have a lot of problems.
That's right, and this is the thing I think we typically see is that the clients that come in, call, drop by, they're there to actually help us, and they typically do a very good job of that.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's an easy phone call to call, if you want to find out something from the IRS or anybody, just on how to start things, what you need to do to keep the ball rolling and stay legal. It's not that hard, just because they are for your information.
That's right.
You put them there.
Right, and while it might be complicated in that or maybe complex, that there's a lot of different moving parts, for the most part, it's not anything that can't be done. So things like filling out a doing business as form. If you're going to start a business in Pennsylvania and you want to operate under a business name, even if you're if you're a sole proprietor, you're going to have to fill out a form that basically tells people, oh, when Joe's Cleaning Service collects money, they owe tax, and we don't know who Joe's Cleaning Service is. We need to be able to figure out who does that connect to, so that when the taxes come, we know where to look for them.
Yeah, I'd say one thing people get mixed up on would be the sales and use tax, because for us at our personal level, a lot of us who live close to Delaware will go over to Delaware and buy an item because there's no tax in Delaware. But when it comes to your business, that's something that doesn't really fly well with the government.
Right, so you're going to want to look at sales and use tax. So if you're buying things for your business and using them in the business, you might not have paid sales tax, but you might still have an obligation to pay a use tax. So again, this is where, as you're getting the business set up, it seems like the priority is do this as efficiently as possible. And I think that is the right thing to do, except efficiently often gets conflated with cheap. So let's not spend money. Let's not hire an accountant. Let's not hire an attorney until we absolutely need them. And I think the time where you probably need them is at the startup.
Yeah.
And this is not a plug for Josh. Josh is going to school to become an accountant. So maybe this is a bit biased as we say it, but. And my family is all accountants except for me, so that somehow that didn't work out. But we think that that's something that does matter, and it is important that if you're starting their marketplace and their industry, but also these are members of our community. So again, we want businesses to thrive and survive and influence the community for the better. So part of that is helping them to deal with some of these legal questions right up at the front. So that when they do launch, that they are launching from a position of strength and stability to move forward.
Of course. I'd say the two things to keep in mind also would be, once you become a business and you don't have an employer over top of you, because you are the employer, you have to look into, you are paying the tax on both ends. So instead of just paying an employee tax to yourself, you also have to pay the employer's part. So usually what comes with that is quarterly payments as a business, which is something, an accountant can go over with anybody. It's something simple. It's just setting aside money so that at the end of the year you make sure that you've paid up enough on your taxes.
Right. And I'm just actually replying to an email question, so hopefully that's working. But some people had asked questions about the stream, so we're just getting back. It looks like it's still online and functioning right now. So again, we apologize for any of those challenges when we first got started. But we are receiving questions, and if you have any questions about any of the content, what the SBDC does, or how we help, you can email us. We've got we're about half an hour in. We're expecting this, while we schedule this for an hour and a half, we're expecting this to be about 45 minutes in length. So we're kind of getting to really what I think is the most important point of the day, which is what can the SBDC do to help? And we've kind of hinted around some of these things, but Christina, I think we're going to have Christina come back and talk with us a little bit about just what is it that the SBDC does to help through this process. We've talked a little bit about classes and consulting and business plans, but what's the process? Like, how do I get started? If you want help, where do we start?
So it can either be starting with a phone call or email. Just reach out to us. We have great people who answer the phones.
Who might they talk to when the phone rings?
You'll speak to us, the graduate assistants, and we will help you get set up with exactly who to reach out to. So we do have some specializations here. We do like government marketing, government work, different kind of marketing. We tap into different kind of markets. So we have people who specialize in special questions if you feel like you're trying to get into something specific. But if not, we can help you with the general stuff. And then right after you get in contact with us, we'll set up time to do either a phone conference with you or face-to-face consulting time, if that's better for you, where we can sit down one-on-one and really speak to you about what it is that you're trying to do with your business, where you're at, and what we can do for you. We really want to make sure that we are tailoring exactly to what you need. So we will make sure to hear that by sitting down and talking to you about it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do in the Success Lab, where we're coming to you hopefully live from right now, is we also do some of our, what we call our consulting sprints. And you've participated in at least one of those with me. How would you kind of summarize what is a consulting sprint, and how does that help somebody with their business?
So a consulting sprint usually is like you said, a set amount of time here in our Success Lab, where we come in and we just kind of, like, sprint is kind of the best word for it, because it's kind of free-flowing, full energy going, where we just pour our time into, formulating ideas. And it's not so much of a structured sit down, this topic to this topic, but just kind of like a conversation between us and the client, and just seeing exactly where they are and just throwing out ideas and making an environment where you are comfortable to just go. And that helps a lot of times, in the sense where it's not so structured. It does help to provide a sense of structure of where do we go from here? Where do we go next? I think it's beneficial for anyone, but extremely beneficial if you are stuck. If it's one of those times where you're like, we started and we don't know where to go, or we're here and we don't know what our next steps are. It's great, because not only are we providing a space for you to move forward, but we're guiding you in your ideas to what that next step is, and it's a great space.
Yeah, and I think that's been some of the feedback we've gotten, is just the fact that, first of all, I'm out of my business and I'm here, changes the whole perception of now I'm working on the business as opposed to working in the business.
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing. It seems small, but it's hard to do. And just getting them into the space, getting them into that mindset of now I'm in that learn and evolve mode outside of the design and test, which is where we typically get stuck as the operators of our small businesses. When you can come into a place like the SBDC, particularly the Success Lab, all of a sudden now we transition over to that learn and evolve mode. And I think that's really the thing that we kind of do here pretty well, is get you into that mindset of saying, all right, this is not the time to be worried about what's happening back at the office. Now is the time to figure out what's the next evolution for that business moving forward.
Yeah. And you speak a lot about my time here at SBDC and working with you, Peter. You speak a lot about the personal side of business, the people side of business. And I think the sprints and this lab really hone in on that concept that, there is the functionality of business, the numbers, the math, the results, the money and all those things, but there is a people side of it. And I think the sprint does a great job of emphasizing that we are people talking to you as as humans, and we're collectively working through our ideas. So we're not, like you said, we're not worried about being in the business, what's going on in the business aspects of being at work, but what are we going to do to enhance that by just making a space where we can be, safe and open.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. So. So other things that we can do, again, we can also help with some market research, which is something else that you've been helping out with some clients right now. So we have access to some databases and things. I know you just started a couple weeks ago with your internship in the SBDC, but what do we do with some of these tools? Like Alteryx is a tool that
Yeah.
we use to help people get their market research. Can you talk a little bit about that?
This is actually something that I knew of, but I've never had experience working with until I came to SBDC, where we can very specifically find out information about the various uses and markets that the consumers in a targeted area utilize. So we can go into depth about, things like, basic characteristics of different type of people, different type of consumers, and specific to the area. So, for example, we if it's something like groceries, like we want to know what kind of groceries are people buying in this 5 mile, 10 mile, 15-mile area, because this is where I'm thinking of utilizing my business or having my business. And we can specifically go into things as tailored as this area buys chicken wings a lot as opposed to pork.
Right.
And that can be something that is small, but can really affect your business as a seller, as opposed to, I'm not going to pour X amount of dollars into pork if people are not going to buy it.
Right.
And that could be a small detail that you'll get into after you do things like the first step, the business plan, and everything like that. But it can be a small detail that can have a dramatic effect in the long run. So we just make sure that we utilize that information. We tailor that information to you specifically here at the SBDC, and we utilize things like Alteryx to just provide quality information to you that you can then take out into your business and use it in all different types of ways.
Yeah, and that's a great point, which is, again, that's what's in it for making that phone call, talking to Josh, Patriot, or Christina, getting yourself started with not just this SBDC. So even if you're not in this region of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania network, we all have similar resources and great talent. I think we've got some of the best GAs, graduate assistants that we could possibly have. You can't tell that they're wonderful on camera and doing all these things and handling not diversity, but difficulty with web streams and all these different things that we're dealing with today. But like I said, at least the past maybe 10 minutes seems to have been pretty good. So again, hopefully we didn't lose everyone during the initial struggles. But if you're still around and you've got some time, if you're on YouTube, we have a link to a very brief, it's only 3 questions, a survey that'll help us make it better the next time. And hopefully we can get through some of the technical issues moving forward. It seems like we've got things working now, so hopefully that was a temporary issue that we're going to move beyond. But I guess with that, is there any other questions that have come in? I know I had one from Aubrey about the chat, but it looks like there's one more. And actually, while you're here, Christina, do you want to handle this question that we've got?
Sure. We get a lot of questions surrounding whether or not you should be nonprofit or for-profit. And I think understanding nonprofit and for-profit, you have some assumptions, and then you have some things that people may not know. So when you think about nonprofit and for-profit, you automatically assume I'm going to make the money or I'm not going to make the money. And that's definitely a misconception, because profitability is profitability. So even in a nonprofit organization, you may think that the money is, you may see the money go to different places, but there's still an entity where there is some profit to be made in nonprofit organizations. From my knowledge, I believe the biggest difference in the nonprofit and profit is just tax. There are different ways in which we tax nonprofit organizations as opposed to profit organizations, but in the long term, as far as extended revenue or how much money is getting into your pockets as opposed to other people's pockets, that's not the biggest difference in the non-profit versus profit. So you can have a organization that does great things for the community and works specifically in different entities, or has an organization based in mental health or giving back, but that can be for profit. So if you had specific questions about your specific service or product or things like that you feel can only be for profit or only be for nonprofit, then we can definitely give you more information here at SBDC about how to do that and which direction to go, depending on what you're trying to do.
All right, Patriot turned off the lights on us. Maybe that's the signal. He's ready to go. Or maybe he wants more camera time. I don't know, but but you said something that I think came out really well there, which is a lot of times people are thinking, I'm going to be a not-for-profit because I want to help out the community. I want to be charitable. I want to give back. And while that is something that's great, it doesn't mean that you have to be a not-for-profit. You can be a for-profit business, and what you do with those profits can be whatever you want. So you can be a for-profit business that is community-focused and charitable and philanthropy and do all those things. You can do all that from a for-profit entity as well. So it's one of those things that sometimes people think that, oh, because I don't want to, go take profits and, buy an island and fly a jet plane all across the continent, doesn't mean that you can't still be generous and community-oriented as a for-profit business. And I would also say that many for-profit businesses are really very community-oriented and focused. So we just put that out there as we don't want business owners or prospective business owners to think that because they're looking to support and help the community that they have to be a not-for-profit, because I think there's other considerations that can be made. We want to, again, help make the best strategic decisions so that not only do you create the business and create the impact in the community, but that you're also being started as a sustainable entity that's going to work for you as the business owner. And then Josh just wrote a note on the board to also talk a little bit about grants versus loans. And I think that's a great question that Josh had. I should probably make him answer it, but we'll let him slide. He wrote it on the board. So we'll cover that as well, that there are grants out there, and our legislators do a great job of organizing and pulling these things together. There's websites like grants.gov, grants.gov, that organize and make the grants that are out there searchable. What tends to be a difficulty is a lot of times grants are there to augment already tested and successful business processes. So there's oftentimes not a lot of grants in the area of startup because we don't know if the business is going to work. We haven't tested it. And also, if we're going to grow the business, we haven't seen where maybe there are some inefficiencies, and we don't want to magnify those. There are some spaces, though, where people are looking to invest in ideas. We just talked about small business innovation research grants. Just yesterday, we've just had some clients that have been very successful in getting some funding to take their ideas, their inventions and innovations, and get them to a point where they're getting ready to be commercialized and available to the general public. These are things, again, that in our office we have colleagues. Bruce Downing in our office helps with the technology commercialization. So if you have new items that might be technology oriented or at least new products that might have some general value to our government, there are sometimes small business innovation research grants that could be accessed that will help you in the process of developing the technology further to get it ready to be commercialized. So there are some things out there, but generally they are a challenge, and there's a lot of time that goes into not only writing grants but also managing them. So for a lot of businesses that even if you are successful in getting a grant, you also change what the business does, because now you also have this operational function and responsibility of writing the grant and maintaining documentation and sending forward updates. So with that, let me just do a final check. Any other questions? I think we're good. So I think at that point, we're going to just do a final reminder. Again, thank you if you stuck with us, thank you for sticking with us through some of the technical challenges at the very beginning. Hopefully it looks like the last bit of this worked out pretty well. But if you could, check out that survey. It is on the description in the YouTube channel. So if you have literally 30 seconds, it is 3 questions. It would help us to move forward and figure out what that issue here in our room. And if there's anything else that you want to share with us, please let us know. We would be happy to use that in our learning and evolving cycle that we're going to go into probably as soon as I hit the stop streaming button here on our piece. So with that, I want to thank Josh Galone, Patriot Gumbo, and Christina Grady, who's still here with us. for their time and knowledge and energy in helping us try something new and maybe too bold, but we'll find out. I think we can.
I think we got this.
I think we got this. I think this was a good test. So thank you all for giving us a try in this test of a web show, and hopefully we'll find ways to make it more interactive and more consistent as we go. So thanks again, and we hopefully will see you in the near future. We plan on doing these about once a month in addition to our regular workshops. So if you have questions about any of our traditional workshops, please feel free to visit our website, which is down at the bottom here, widenersbdc.org, and you can learn more about our workshops, our consulting, our success lab that we're in right now. And we hope to see you at some point, or at least pick up the phone and hear you on the other side. So thanks again. We'll hopefully see you soon.